Welcome to the Hurdle Podcast. Very special episode today. We've been holding out for it. We've been wanting to do this one for a while because it has a lot of, how you say, moving parts.
Yes. That's why they
Um,
call it the carousel.
yeah, the coaching carousel in the NFL. All the jobs have been snatched for the most part. If not, they're pretty much official. So we're gonna dive into all that. We're gonna dive into the Brian Flores stuff with the NFL and his lawsuit. We'll get into that a little bit. We'll keep it as appropriate as we can. We both have very strong feelings on it. And yeah, we'll just and then we'll go through the coach hires and we'll give them a scale grade of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
10 being the best, 1 being why hire him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how we're gonna do this episode today. So let's start off with Chicago. Chicago having to replace Nagy and the
terror of him.
yeah, Nagy in the front office screwing the whole franchise up. I mean, there's some bright spots, I think, for what they did. You know, they got Khalil Mack there. They drafted Justin Fields. So there's pieces in set.
Yeah,
for
they get a playoff. I think they got a playoff one too, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong.
They might have. I mean, double joint comes to mind. They didn't win that, but other than that,
they didn't. Good Lord.
I mean, the Bears were competitive right when he got there.
Yeah.
And it's just been kind of downhill since. But Bears go for a change to get Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator for the Colts. Personally, I don't hate the hire. I just don't know if I like the hire for the Bears. I think they need a more offensive-minded head coach to develop Fields. And, I mean, I get bringing in a great defensive coordinator, you know, coming over from the Colts. Colts were one of the best defenses in the NFL for the past few years. And I get the hire there. It's just, I think going more offensive was the move here. But if I was to give it a grade, I'd probably give it like a 6 or a 7. It's not a terrible hire. I really just wish they would have gone more offensive rather than a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I agree on all fronts really there. I didn't know. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't even heard of this dude before he got hired. Except for the fact that he was Indy's DC when everyone was saying when the time came around. I didn't see him being the number one candidate for any team. So the fact that I believe he was the first hire at head coach, and Chicago being aggressive in that front, I guess made it really just like, it was undeniable that they were going to hire him. So they have a lot of confidence in this guy, which is great. I don't hate the fact that they're going defensive. I agree with you. Justin Fields is the future of this franchise. You have to develop him in some sort of way. Nagy is an offensive-minded head coach, if you want to put it that way, but he's not great at that. So that just shows you the potential of Matt Nagy. But
I think we both would have liked, like we talked about. I mean, obviously, the enemy.
Yeah,
he didn't get a job. Kellen Moore, even just to develop Fields, because they bought in, they traded their pick this year that the Giants now have, which is a very valuable pick.
Dable.
Yeah, like
if you're going to develop quarterbacks, Dable. Like he's proven it with Josh Allen.
And we'll get into where he's going later.
But I don't know. I don't hate the defensive move. If they're looking to win right now with Justin Fields going into his sophomore year, I don't hate it. I just don't know if the timelines necessarily match between getting a defensive coordinator, head coach, and trusting. They're basically going all in on Justin Fields being able to improve during the offseason in really every facet of the game.
And really, to do that, they got to bring in more weapons for him.
They do have to bring more weapons. If they keep Allen Robinson, I expect a much higher uptick in targets for him this year just because it was Fields' rookie year. Mooney he was kind of their breakout star offensively this year. They still have a very potent run game with David Montgomery. Khalil Herbert wasn't that bad when he was in. So I don't know. They have value offensively. They just don't have the pieces or the guy to put the pieces together. Eberflus isn't really that guy, but I think they're really looking at Khalil Mack in this defense. A revival of Eddie Jackson coming into this next year, getting these corners rolling because they traded Kyle Fuller away for a bag of Tostitos. And
I mean, they kind of were just playing with injuries all year. It was kind of just a written on the door thing that Nagy wasn't going to be there because he was already on thin ice. Mm-hmm. And then Khalil Mack gets hurt for most of the year.
Robert Quinn. They have Robert Quinn. Yeah, he had like
17 and a half.
Yeah,
right?
he was second in the league in sacks. So he had a revival of his own.
Jalen Johnson was out for the whole year. He was the stud rookie out of Utah last year for them.
And then in the middle of all that, you have Roquan Smith. So if they're looking to build around the defense, let the offense grow and develop with age and more maturity. I don't hate it. I would give it a 7.
Yeah, for sure. All right, next, Denver goes. They get rid of Vic Fangio. They bring in Nathaniel Hackett, the OC of the Green Bay Packers. Just looking at it, you look at it. This is clearly. I'm not saying he didn't deserve a head coaching job. This is clearly Denver putting all their chips in and going, we are making it as appealing as possible for Aaron Rodgers to come to Denver. Because they have his guy there. He loves Nathaniel Hackett. He's come out and said that many times. And if you get Hackett there, you can get Rodgers there, which means you can get Devontae Adams there. Like, it's just this domino effect. I don't hate the hiring per se. I just don't. We'll just have to see. I think it's a smart play by them to get, if they're really going to go all in and try to get Rodgers, this was the right move. If they're just going to sit on the sideline and not do anything in regards to trying to get Rodgers, then I don't love the hire, but I mean, not terrible. Again, I'll kind of just give it a 7. It's middle of the pack for me. They definitely need an offensive-minded coach, which he is, because that defense, even without Von Miller to end the year, looked very good. They just got to figure out how to develop this offense because they got a lot of young weapons. The run game's going to be scary with Williams and Gordon back there.
Mm-hmm.
They just got to find a quarterback early. They are set almost everywhere else except quarterback.
Yeah.
And I think bringing in Nathaniel Hackett is just a way of either developing a quarterback if you, for some reason, take one in the draft, or you get a guy like Aaron Rodgers to come in your building. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, Hackett is a tough one to grade right now, solely because of the potential that he brings with the pieces that can come in with him. Like you said, in Aaron Rodgers, in Devontae Adams, and in potentially Marquez Valdes-Scantling. So yeah, right now, if he just gets solely Rodgers and like MVS, they don't get Adams, it's still a 10.
Oh yeah.
You get Rodgers, you're immediately in Super Bowl contention with that defense and those weapons. It's a 10, hands down, because you're making Super Bowl runs. If you don't land any of those guys, then it starts to waver for me, because I don't know. This isn't the best guy to go out and develop a quarterback. He hasn't really had to do that yet because Aaron Rodgers has been there. And we just don't really know offensively what he's capable of doing without having an MVP level quarterback and the best receiver in the league.
We've only seen bits and pieces of it with Love playing a little bit, but you'd still have
with Love playing, and Love looked horrible when he played those games, in my opinion. He did not look great. So I don't know. This is a huge boom or bust one. If they get everyone, it's a 10. Right now, I'm feeling like a 6, but I understand Denver's position in going to risk it for the biscuit. If you get him, bring in, I'd say they probably, if the trade doesn't happen before the draft, for Aaron Rodgers, and he has an opt-out this year, I think.
He does have an opt-out in his contract,
which he hasn't exercised yet. So I do think they go quarterback in the draft. They'll trade him Kenny Pickett most likely, and go that route, or whoever Green Bay wants, really.
Yeah, if they want more of a defensive player, they'll give him that. If they're worried about Adams leaving, maybe they jump and get a receiver.
Yeah, it'll probably be
poetic justice.
Yeah,
draft a receiver once they get rid of Rodgers.
Exactly. But yeah, right now I'm at like 5.5, 6. If they get one of those 3 pieces, unless it's MVS by himself, it's a 10.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the biggest gamble for, I think, most of these coaching hires, just because you don't know. Like, Rodgers wants to be with Hackett, but he also does, like, his coaching staff still in Green Bay. It's not a matter of the coaching staff for him. It's ownership and not doing, or him not having certain controls over the team that he feels like he should have. Because all these teams that are successful, their quarterback has a lot of say in their roster. I mean, look at Tampa. I mean, the biggest example, look at KC. Like, it's just that shows how much a quarterback can mean to a franchise to get pieces in.
Yep.
All right, the dumpster fire of the Houston Texans continues. They go, hey, or Brian Flores is still there. Let's hire from within the dumpster fire and keep Defensive coordinator, or offensive coordinator. I don't even know what he was. Defensive coordinator. Lovie Smith. If you do not remember who Lovie Smith is,
coached the 06 Bucks.
Yeah, he coached the 06 Bucks. He coached
Bears.
Coached a little bit for the Bears.
With Cutler?
Yeah, with Jay Cutler, and when they went on
Alshon Jeffrey,
that NFC Championship game against Green Bay, he was the coach there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sucked in Chicago, like a lot of coaches do.
And fell off the face of the earth.
Was coaching Illinois football like 2 years ago.
Wasn't
and then he ends up in Houston, and now he's the head coach of the Houston Texans. Yeah, I'm giving this a big old 1. I'm giving it a 1. Now, if they can figure everything else out and just get Deshaun out of there, then Lovie Smith can just focus on whatever he wants. I just don't think – I think Lovie Smith's success with the Bears was foreshadowed because of how great that team was. And it wasn't coaching, I can tell you that, because then when he went to Illinois, they were also terrible. So, and the Texans, since he's been there, have been terrible. So, I don't know. It's the most Texans hire I could ever think of. Hiring from within the dumpster fire, because no one wants to go coach there. Like, Houston had it all set up. Watson wants to play with Flores. All they had to do was try to get Flores in the building. And they said, we're going to, I guess, both figure out their legal issues and we'll just hire Lovie Smith. Like, This almost seems like a bridge coaching hire. Like, it's a patch for a year maybe. But I don't know. It's interesting. But I give it a 1.
I am on the same playing field as Logan here. One of the ways I could describe this is like it's a firefighter running into a burning house, and the first guy they try to save is David Coley, and that doesn't work out. And then Lovie Smith's like yelling from like the 8th floor, and now they're trying to save him.
And that shit, here we go. He's locked in the basement.
I don't understand. Because here's number 1. David Coley was at least showing some resemblance of trying to build an offense with Davis Mills. Like, he actually played all right for the last, like, 3 games.
I was gonna say about the last month and a half.
Yeah, he was playing all right. Wasn't turning the ball over as a rookie. He actually looked pretty good.
He was one of the better rookie quarterbacks this year, honestly, if you look at
especially
it.
at the tail end.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like starting to do something there. And you hired him over Lovie Smith. You could have hired last year, who was already your Romeo Crennel left, then you made him the defensive coordinator. But you still hire Coley. And now you go down the chain to fire Coley and then bring Smith up. It makes no sense to me. It absolutely makes no sense. Your whole goal here, if you are really not trying to trade Deshaun Watson, Brian Flores should be 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, and 1E on your list. Even with all the suing going on, which we'll be talking about. And they don't even make an conceited effort to even interview him. I would have rather seen Josh McCown if you were going to build a quarterback in the NFL and Davis Mills, and if you're going to develop him and trade Deshaun Watson. If you want to do none of that, you bring up Lovie Smith to be your head coach. And that's exactly what they did. It's mind-boggling. It's confusing.
Tanking for Bryce Young.
And it's a 1. I'm totally in the same boat. It is a 1.
So we'll stay in division, but we'll kind of, I think, flip a little bit, because I don't think this is a 1 hiring at all. Jacksonville, all their turmoil. We thought it was going to be Brian Leftwich from Tampa. I would have loved that hire. Doesn't have to do much. Tom Brady was his quarterback the last 2 years, but whatever. Jacksonville goes to the guy that took a year off, kind of like Mike McCarthy did a few years ago. They bring in Doug Pedersen, former Eagles coach, took them to a Super Bowl, former quarterback. So this is clearly one of those hires that they're hiring to develop Trevor Lawrence, which is what you do if you're at least a somewhat decent franchise.
Yes.
And that's a stretch saying the Jags are a somewhat decent franchise.
I tried that last year with Urban, but you saw how that went.
Well, last time I checked, Doug Pedersen doesn't enjoy nightclubs as much. So he goes to bed at 8:30 every night. I like the Doug Pedersen hire. My only concern is I feel like this is one of those hires where they look at it and go, he took Philly to a Super Bowl. He developed Carson Wentz. I don't know. I just look at his coaching, and the two things that jump out is, he won a Super Bowl in Philly, and Carson Wentz was an MVP caliber quarterback till he got hurt. And then after that, it just didn't look the same. And he was in a pretty easy division in Philly, and they seem to be stumbling here and there. But I mean, if this is clearly a hire again to try to develop Lawrence, develop this offense, they're going to get the right pieces around him. Doug Pedersen's one of those guys that I think will attract people to maybe go to Jacksonville to play with Trevor Lawrence, and Doug Pedersen being your coach is even more, enticing to say the least. I give it around an 8.5. I don't think it's a terrible hire. I think it's probably one of the better ones I could have gone with, honestly, outside of maybe a Flores or a Brian Dable, but I like it. I don't hate it. I don't really love it a ton, but 8.5 is about where I would have it.
I'm gonna give this an 8. Yeah, I understand completely where they're coming from. Leftwich, I think, is more interesting because we know what we're gonna get from Doug Pedersen. It is RPO, 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 and then they're gonna run the RPO. With Leftwich, it's more deep bombs, letting Lawrence kind of do his thing. They could probably even mix in some QB draw around there. Leftwich really likes to spread it out and run more of a college style offense, I guess.
He would have a more mobile quarterback that he's had of late.
Yeah, and you get Trevor Lawrence to exercise that. But I'm cool with Doug Pedersen. He's got the Super Bowl title, so like you said, people are going to want to play for a Super Bowl winning coach, even if it's just in their first year. People wanted to play for Urban until he started doing all the dumb crap that he was doing. Like it was ridiculous. Like they got Shaquille Griffin, who was like a top 4 corner last year in free agency, top 3 corner last year in free agency, and then some. So I like the hire a lot. Whether it's going to showcase Lawrence's offensive talent, I don't know. But we saw what Wentz did in that 1.5-year stretch where he fairly improved in those 3 and 4 years in the league, his 3rd year and his 4th year. But yeah, it's not anything that just jumps off the page to you. But I think it's one that fundamentally makes sense to exercise all your weapons, like a Travis Etienne, like a James Robinson, Trevor Lawrence. You're gonna.
That's a scary RPO right there.
Yeah,
that's very scary.
And Laviska Shenault and guys like that. And you have
DJ Chark will be back next year.
I think he's a free agent.
Most likely.
Maybe not. But yeah, Shenault, and you still have those athletic guys like Agnew and Tavon Austin that you could get working in that offense, which I know those just seem like Doug Pedersen kind of players to me. Like a Greg Ward or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I like the hire a lot. I give it an 8.
Very nice. All right. We go to Vegas where recently a lot of things are happening in Vegas. But this is one of them. Josh McDaniels finally leaves the Patriots. How you say womb? Umbilical cord? Whatever you want to call it. I don't want to call it tree, but umbilical cord. He takes the Raiders job. Gosh, this is so I like Josh McDaniels. I think he could be a very good head coach. The Denver experiment didn't work. I more hate this because the Raiders had their guy. Bisaccia was the guy. He got them to the playoffs. He had that winning culture. He had the culture built. Like, if he would have been the head coach for the majority of the year, the Raiders could have been a scary team. And all the crap he had to deal with from the front office, with Mayock, with Gruden, like all that. And he still got them to the playoffs. They were competitive. They lose in the first round to the team that's now in the Super Bowl. Like, I just don't really get hiring Josh McDaniels in Vegas. You had your guy there. You could have built from within, and it would have been a hell of a lot better than what Houston did from building within, because Bisaccia proved that he could win. And I mean, we'll piggyback off it now. Bisaccia took the Green Bay Packers special teams job.
Yeah.
And
Green Bay, that's a great
hire for Green Bay, a great hire for anyone. It didn't matter if he was still the special teams coordinator your DC or head coach or your, it didn't matter. It's just the Raiders clearly couldn't see that. And I feel bad. I think Josh McDaniels, again, like I said, is a decent hire. I'm going to give this a 5. I'll go 4. I'm going to go 4. I really just think they had their guy. They didn't have to go to this extent. And it's not like he's developing a quarterback. Like, it's Derek Carr. Like, if anything, they should bring in a guy that can help just make that defense that much better. And I don't know. I give it a 4.
I don't know about how to feel this one. I think this one's like you said with Bisaccia. I love Bisaccia. I thought we were talking about all season at the tail end there, how he rejuvenated this team, took them to the playoffs, yada, yada, yada. They lost the Super Bowl champs. Foreshadowing. Lost the Super Bowl contenders.
We're recording this week before the Super Bowl.
Yes. Pardon me on that. But I think it really is going to come down to how he runs this offense. If it's airing it out, I don't think this is a great hire. If they are going to run this offense like they did New England through Josh Jacobs and let Derek Carr play off that, I think they have a real shot to be a playoff team again. I don't hate the hire, to be honest with you. I think it's better than what some teams did. I think it's better than what the Bears did with Eberflus. I think it's better than what Lovie Smith, of course, better than that. It's better than a few ones down the list that we'll get into. But if they're looking to establish a running game through Josh Jacobs, let Carr play off of it, I feel like that should be more helpful to Carr because he doesn't have to throw it 35, 40 times a game. And instead be a much more efficient 25 to 30 and still get his 250 and 2 touchdowns that way and just not turn the ball over. If he can translate that from New England into a Raiders run game with weapons, I think they have a real chance of making the playoffs again. I really don't hate this hire. I'm like a 6.5, probably 7, somewhere around there. It's not the best hire in the world, but if they're looking to improve on what they did last year, I would have preferred Bisaccia, and that's why this grade is a little lower. Bisaccia didn't coach as well as he did and have as much passion about it. I like McDaniels here to fill in that spot. It's the safer option, but I think they have a chance to maybe increase another round in the playoffs with McDaniels as their head coach.
Yeah, and it's going to be a dogfight in that division now because Casey's still there, Chargers still there. We don't know what the Broncos are going to be. So he really has to coach his ass off because if not, they are going to be the laughing stock of that division, honestly, depending on what Denver does. Miami. So Miami, we know the controversy. Again, we'll get into it a little bit, but Brian Flores out. They bring in the logic. If you don't remember, we talked about this. I broke it to Bailey Live that it pretty much came down to the front office wanting to trust Tua and not trade for Deshaun Watson because Flores wanted Watson. And
what video was that?
I can't remember. We brought up at a random time before he got hired.
If I can fire, I'll link it.
But it pretty much came down to they believe in Tua more and Flores didn't. And they said, well, one of you has to go. And they're like, well, we don't want to trade for Watson. So we're going to get rid of the guy that wants Watson because that's all we're going to be hearing while he's here. And that was not the end of it, to say the least. But Miami goes out and gets Mike McDaniel. They poach him from the Niners, the Niners offensive coordinator. If I'm being honest, this might be one of my favorite hires. I wasn't thrilled about it at the beginning, but then I really sat there and thought about it. If they can run this offense kind of like San Francisco's been able to do, it's going to develop Tua. I think Tua will develop perfect. He doesn't need to be throwing the ball a ton. They can run ground and pound. They just need to invest in the offensive line.
And a running back.
And a decent running back. Like even in his offenses in San Francisco, he's taken running backs that are middle of the pack, to say the least, like to put it in the best of terms, and have made them all pro running backs. You saw McKinnon part of the year, Raheem Mostert, Matt Breida. It really doesn't matter who the running back is. He'll find a way. I think it might be my favorite hire. I have my doubts because they had a way better coach there already. In Flores, but I'll give this 8.5, 9. I think it's a decent hire for sure. I think he's going to build that offense up, and it's going to just help Tua in the long run. He already has a great connection with Tua. Literally, right as he got hired, he called Tua. Like, they're putting in the work. I think they're going to be cooking something up in Miami. I really do, especially with that division looking like it's just shifting more and more to Buffalo, the longer we go on, Miami could be a sneaky second team to get a wild card spot next year if they can really run this offense the way that they were able to in San Francisco under him.
I think this is one of the better ways they could have rebounded at with the Flores thing going on here. I don't know how to react to this. I think this dude is just like a football nerd. He kind of reminds me of he kind of reminds me of like McVay, like in his first 1 or 2 years.
He's from that tree.
Yeah, and he's from the tree. My only gripe here is that he wasn't the play caller in San Francisco. Shanahan ran that joint. Like that was Shanahan's team, still is Shanahan's team. And that we'll get into that later too with another guy. But the Dolphins aren't a terrible team. They have a fairly decent squad, especially defensively.
Defensively, they're underrated. They're very good defensively.
McDaniel's more of an offensive-minded coach. I mean, he's the offensive coordinator, of course, for the Niners, but now going to Miami, I don't know. He's going to have to reconstruct a whole new offensive front. Like that O-line needs help, that run game needs help, and Tua needs a run game for him to be better. Jalen Waddle is like the sole bright spot of that entire roster because Gesicki's not really a blocking tight end.
No, he's not.
And they don't really have a great fullback like a Patrick Ricard or anything like that. Their running backs aren't jumping off the charts. Myles Gaskin's decent. Which he might even be a free agent.
Miami might be in the spot where in the second round, if Kenneth Walker's just sitting there near the top, they might just trade up and get him. I think fair. Kenneth Walker in Miami would be very fun in this offense.
That's fair. So I like McDaniel as a potential future winner in Miami. It's whether or not does Miami give him the time to do so that they didn't with Mr. Flores. The time and the pieces and just let him do his thing there. That's all going to be up to Stephen Ross if he's still even there in the next year as the owner of Miami. So I'm not on the same level that Logan's at. I'm more of like, I'm being a little more conservative as it is right now. I'm giving him like a 7.5. That's solely because of the current roster and the upper echelon of the Miami Dolphins organization. That could limit him in his way to construct this roster and build this team.
You can say it, the dumpster fire of Miami.
It's not a dumpster fire though.
Top. I'm not saying roster wise.
Yeah.
That front office is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, Steve Ross. Oh my goodness.
Anyway, let's jump to Bailey's team, Minnesota. After getting rid of Mike Zimmer after, was he there 6, 7 years, 8 years?
Yeah, something like
long
that.
tenure. Congrats to him.
That's like 2013, I think.
Yeah. And they went kind of a different hire than a lot of the recent coaching hires outside of Leslie Frazier and Zimmer. They go with an offensive guy. They go with Kevin O'Connell. It's not official yet because the Rams are in the Super Bowl. He's the OC for the Rams. I have a feeling I know what Bailey's going to say. I think it's more the same lines that we were talking about with McDaniel. Is McVay runs that Rams offense.
Yeah.
And it's no shot to him. He's developed guys. He developed Cooper Kupp. Like this offense, it's not just McVay. McVay has to have his pieces. So with this guy being one of those pieces from that McVay tree, I guess you could say now, Shanahan tree, I don't hate the hire. I think it's probably one of the better hires they could get, especially when rumors were Jim Harbaugh. To get Kevin O'Connell instead of Jim Harbaugh, I think it's a win for the Vikings. I really do. It's going to be like Bailey said, it's going to be one of these kind of prove it things, I think. I'm going to give it an 8.5. I really do enjoy it. I think bringing him in is just going to elevate Justin Jefferson so much, as if he's not already that good. He's going to elevate him. I could see him elevating a younger guy if they bring him in. Maybe Irv Smith Jr. at tight end, he'll be able to develop because he's
out all last year.
Yeah, he was out all last year. So you're going to get him back healthy. And he might just be a more vertical threat version of a Tyler Higbee. And that's not anything bad for this offense. So I'll give it an 8.5. I don't hate it. I think the best they could have done because they waited a while. They took their time, unlike a lot of these other teams. They really took their time and interviewed a lot of people.
like 8 or 9
And
guys.
yeah, and some randoms, like I think they hired, like they talked to like the Giants DC. It's like, why would you do that? But at the same time, I think Kevin O'Connell is probably one of the better fits that they could have gotten, and that's why I gave it an 8.5.
Okay.
Give it to him, Bailey.
I don't hate it. I'm kind of on the same level with McDaniel on this one. As we just talked about with the Dolphins. There's incredible potential, but as of right now, I don't know if it's necessarily win now move. The Vikings are building around young pieces offensively, and they got to reform a secondary. That's their huge, like 2 key things is doing those. When Harbaugh got brought up in the mentions, I cried, to be very honest with you. And then when it said he was going back to Michigan, I cried again, but this time tears of joy. And O'Connell's name gets mentioned. I didn't really know who he was. I knew he was the OC for the Rams, but like we were just saying, McVay is the heart and soul of that entire offense. But having McConnell come down out of that tree, I think that's a very trustworthy tree to be coming out of. I don't hate the hire. I'm like probably the same with McDaniel. I say 7.5, 8, probably around an 8. Yeah, Justin Jefferson will probably he'll be my pick for offensive player of the year next year. Just off the bat right now, telling you guys he'll be my offensive player of the year pick.
Oh yeah.
Just because I think O'Connell's just going to take him to that next level. I really am interested to see what he does with Dalvin Cook in this offense. If we're going to still see the 20 to 25 touches, or if it's more of a Cam Akers kind of thing where it's 15 touches, 5 catches. Cook's a workhorse running back though.
He can really do it all.
So. Yeah, and up front they're solid. Adam Thielen I think is like a Robert Woods kind of fit in this offense. It's just you're not going to line him up in the backfield whatsoever. So that's Dalvin Cook's role, but I don't hate it. It gives Kirk Cousins one more chance, which I don't like, but statistically, I guess you could say he's earned it in some way. I don't think he has, but some people will give him the credit that I won't, so I'll let that slide. And I'm very interested to see we are breaking away from the Brad Childress, the Leslie Frazier, the Mike Zimmer, and we're finally turning to a more modern offensive look here in Minnesota with weapons that can really get it done. I think they'll be a better team than Miami next year, just because they got those weapons already, where Miami needs to build them up a little bit more to really be a threat in that AFC East. I think the Vikings will make the playoffs next year as of right now.
And that's without knowing what Rodgers does.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if Rodgers leaves, they probably win the division if Rodgers leaves. So when he's gone, that division is probably the worst division in the league right there with the NFC East. But yeah, which the Cowboys have been taking advantage of as of late.
Yeah, and
deservedly so.
You can be the Cowboys
of the North, yeah. Yeah, but screw the Cowboys.
Hopefully not one and done.
Yeah, hopefully we don't lose in the playoffs.
You gotta get there first.
Try the NFC Championship in the past 4 years.
This is true. I'm not I'm not getting into this. Like everyone on our floor. Yeah. We talked about, like, Nick complains about the Giants. He's seen his team win 2 Super Bowls. Jack, oh gosh, the Broncos. He's seen them win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. Me and Bailey haven't seen our teams win Super Bowls. Bailey's at least see his team in the NFC Championship. Maybe he wants to forget that, but they were there. And yeah. Anyway, New Orleans. So the weird one, I think, of all this, Sean Payton announces
this was the wild card
retirement. So he's not officially done. He's just
stepping down.
Yeah, stepping down, taking a break. So the smart thing for the Saints, this is why I admire the Saints front office. They just hired from within. They kept it short and simple, because you don't want to pay a guy all this money and then have Sean Payton be like, all right, I'm ready to come back. Mm-hmm. It's just kind of like one of those things where hire from within, give Sean Payton a year. If Sean Payton wants to come back after a year, you have his rights. If he doesn't want to coach your team, you can trade him, and then you can go get your head coach. Mm-hmm. This is, again, like a patch it for a year, kind of like it was Lovie Smith. I don't hate it. They hired from within. I think they did the smart hire from within. I think we all saw this coming from a mile away. that
We were
Dennis
saying
Allen
it
was.
a month before it even happened.
Yeah, because I mean, he's the one that replaced Sean Payton with Bountygate. Like, so it just made a lot of sense. I'll give it a 5. It's just right in the middle. They did what they had to do. I don't love it. Dennis Allen, I don't think is a head coach material in my eyes. I just think the Saints did the most perfect way, kept it from within, a guy that's been there through all of it. And I mean, we'll see what the Saints are next year. They could be something. That salary cap doesn't look great, and off the field stuff doesn't look great right now either. So this might be walking into a Miami situation, honestly.
Yeah, I don't hate this one either. You see what Dennis Allen has built, probably a top 10 defense there in New Orleans. Maybe stats don't say it, but the way they play, especially in division, is fantastic. And you still got Cam Jordan up there, is still fantastic. I don't hate the move. I feel it's more of a transition move. It'll probably be 2 years. And they'll probably keep him, just slide him right back down. I don't think they'll fire him or anything like that. This is just a puzzle piece, a bridge to cross to the other side, which probably is not Sean Payton. Sean Payton's, I think, is probably done, personally. But I mean, you never know. You never know. And it leaves the door open for Payton to come back, like you said, if it is a 1-year break. So there really isn't a better way to do this. You didn't want to go out and get a brand new head coach because of Sean Payton. You don't really know what his future lies with him and your connection with your franchise. But yeah, I don't hate it. I'm like a 5 or 6 right in the middle. There's nothing worse they could have done, but there isn't anything better that they could have done, just with the restrictions of Peyton potentially coming back and you still wanting to compete in that division, which is now also up for grabs. There's no more Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And the Saints have the roster to do it when they're healthy. I mean,
the NFC sucks, dude.
The NFC is not looking good.
They suck.
If Rodgers leaves, imagine.
Good Lord. I'm just realizing this. No North, really.
No East.
No East, because there hasn't been one for like 3 years now. And no South potentially.
It's the West.
It's literally the end. We might see 4 NFC West teams make the playoffs next year. And if Seattle keeps Russell Wilson.
Yeah. The NFC is going to be terrible. Because you look at it and they're all getting the NFC is like getting older and the AFC is just getting that much younger.
The AFC has all the young studs. They got Josh Allen, they got Mahomes, they got Herbert, they got Burrow, like Derrick Henry, like all the offensive talent in the world is in the AFC, especially if Rodgers goes to the AFC, because they got Rodgers. Good Lord. Yeah, sorry.
No, I didn't even really think about that either. Like, there's not much. Like, the NFC might be the most interesting because a lot of it's up for grabs. But in the end, like, it's not gonna matter really. Like,
Philly might be a 2 seed next year. They somehow get over Dallas.
Dallas might be a 1 seed next year.
Literally. They might be.
Dallas at 1, Minnesota at 2.
No.
Anyway, so here's the big granddaddy of them all. Maybe not the hire per se, but what we'll get into right after it. New York gets rid of Joe Judge. Who would have thought? Yeah, about 2 years too late. And they bring in Brian Daboll, that is, OC for Buffalo. I really like this hire. I felt like this was the hire from the beginning, really, for them. I didn't think there was really anyone else outside of the other Brian that could have gotten it. I think he'll be, if the Giants are saying what they are saying and they're going to run this team and this offense through Daniel Jones, this is the best guy that can try to get that to happen, because
you can't say that without making me
laugh. I cannot say it with a straight face. I laugh inside because you have one of the best running backs when healthy in the league, and you go, yeah, you know that guy we drafted 6th overall from Duke, that plays football, not basketball. We're going to build our offense around him. He's a little more athletic than Eli Manning. There you go. Sure.
With less IQ, less arm strength, and less accuracy.
And not a great name brand to build around.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I like the Brian Daboll hire. I think this is the best thing the Giants could have done. For that reason, I'm going to give it a high one. I'm going to give it a 9 just because I think he's the right hire for this team. I think his a lot of places could have used a Brian Daboll. I think Minnesota would have been interesting. Miami would have been the really interesting one to develop Tua. But he's going to go and try to develop Daniel Jones. Maybe the tallest task anyone can ever ask someone, to develop Daniel Jones. But he's developed Josh Allen. So Josh Allen had the arm talent. He's made Josh Allen's IQ that much better. So I hope he can do that with Daniel Jones. I don't hope he does that, but for the sake of this video, I hope he does.
Mhm.
But yeah, God, the Giants might be a playoff team next year. Shit.
Yeah.
God. Yeah, I'll give it a 9.
Man, I don't know how to feel about this one. I think for what the Giants are trying to do, like you said, it's perfect. Build around Daniel Jones. Why? I don't know. Don't make me laugh.
Well, you're a joke, Daniel Jones.
Insert clip of him falling over here.
Insert the concussion.
But I don't really know how to put it into words. I think I like what they're doing staff wise here. I like Daboll as the head coach. I like him bringing in the QB coach to be the OC. God, I just saw who they were bringing in as DC the other day. I can't remember.
Baltimore's ex.
Yes. Oh my Lord. Now I can't. I'm gonna look it up. But yeah, I just like what they're doing staff wise here in New York. Yeah, I just looked up Baltimore Ravens. It's like Wink something. DC or
DC.
Former. Is it Wink Martindale?
I think.
Is that what it is? No. Yeah. Don Martindale. Yeah, Wink. Which that's his name. There we go. Okay.
That's a great hire.
Yeah, that's a great hire because the Ravens have had a top 6 or 7 defense.
And they've developed
in the past couple years. Yeah, and they've developed. They've taken guys like Patrick Queen and made them absolute studs.
Marlon Humphrey, they've really developed at corner.
Humphrey, yep, absolutely. And they're just starting to get guys like Owe and the other edge. Maybe it's just Owe. I don't know. I'm losing my mind.
Calais Campbell is not developed.
Yeah, no, he's like 52.
And like Derek, we'll see.
But yeah, I like what he did up there. Now they're moving him to defensive coordinator, which I think is a great hire. I think all around the Giants are building a great staff. Now this got to have the roster and take advantage of the weapons they got. Kenny Galladay was absolutely dreadful last year. I think Daboll is going to look to utilize him a little bit more, get Sterling Shepard going underneath a little bit more. Evan Ingram is really just Dawson Knox with no hands and is a little bit faster. So if he can clean up his route running a little bit, get him a little more open in this scheme, I think he'll have a better season this year. I don't know. I just like it. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs by any means, but I think they're starting a nice base for the future in terms of staff. So with that being said, 8.5. I don't know. I'm kind of, I think it's a slightly better hire when you put it all into context than like McDaniel or a O'Connell, which maybe in the future, I think O'Connell and McDaniel, I think they have the highest potential here. Besides maybe Hackett, just because they might get Aaron Rodgers. But I think McDaniel and O'Connell, they have the highest potential here in terms of building a modern day offense.
Yeah, modern day, a winning culture, just, all that stuff that, the Giants haven't had since Tom Coughlin.
Mm-hmm.
And, a good hire, I think was the hire that was needed to be made for this Giants team. But we'll get into the touchy stuff now. So if you don't want to listen, you can tune out now. Yeah. But we're going to talk about Brian Flores. He filed his lawsuit with the NFL, the New York Giants, the Denver Broncos, and the Miami Dolphins, pretty much for teams violating the Rooney Rule, which if you don't know what the Rooney Rule is, it's that every team must interview legitimately a candidate of color. And his argument is that Miami, they were offering to pay him to lose to tank for Tua, 100,000 a game. And he said, that's just not who I am. And the Dolphins still end up with Tua, but really would have probably rather had Herbert or Burrow looking at it now. Denver, the year that they hired Vic Fangio, he's accusing John Elway of coming to the interview hungover and not really giving him much of an interview. And then the Giants one's the interesting one because we throw Bill Belichick in. Bill Belichick texted the wrong Brian. He thought he was texting Dayball, texted Flores and congratulated him on the Giants job because he felt he was deserving, yada, yada, yada. And Belichick pretty much said he knew it all along, like he knew it was coming. So then the Giants really did an interview with Flores for no reason because they'd really already made up their mind. They just did it to get the Rooney rule out of the way pretty much and didn't really have a fair shot for him. So that's really what's going on in the NFL right now. That's like the biggest talk in the NFL. And it really shouldn't be because it's Super Bowl week. The draft and the combine and all that's coming up, which is exciting. But this is really the big thing in the NFL right now. And it's one of those things that it's hard for me not to believe Brian Flores in this because Brian Flores is an exceptional NFL coach. He is football. He loves football. He would not make a lawsuit like this or stretch his neck out or put himself out there that much because I think he now realizes damn well he probably will never get hired again. And that's a terrible thing because he was great in New England as their DC. He was building a culture in Miami and ownership in Miami really just didn't want that. And it really does suck that this kind of stuff is still relevant in sports and it really just shouldn't be because it doesn't matter what you look like in the NFL. It's how you coach, how you create a culture, and how you develop people. And Brian Flores is one of the best at that. Arguably in this coaching pool, probably the best because he has been a head coach.
He's the best. He was the best head coaching candidate coming into this.
And yeah, and I don't think it was really even that close. No. And the fact that teams this year and even teams year or two ago before he got the Miami job just weren't taking it serious is really a slap in the face. And it tarnishes the integrity of the NFL. This is like very big. It's worse than I think a lot of the things the NFL's had to go through, like the whole Al Davis stuff back in the 70s with the Raiders. This is way worse because now it just makes you look so bad compared to all these other leagues. And even like with baseball right now, they're in a lockout. But I look at it as the players are doing it for the players. The NFL is now scrambling because they are on the hot seat. They look bad right now, very bad. And I'll get on my soapbox a little bit.
Yeah. If you want to just compare it to the MLB, like you said, the players are arguing really just over like minor league deals is the whole consensus of that, plus amount of games, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Which is brought up almost every year.
With this is a whole nother category of its own. It is, if this is all true, which I'm leaning towards it is right now, it is an absolute disgrace. The NFL, it's just a tragedy. It is an absolute tragedy what is happening right now with Brian Flores and just his outright ability to score a job as a high quality head coach. But not only that, as an African-American man in the NFL. Clearly, I'm not that, but I will speak out and say that it is terrible. It's a travesty.
It's sickening. It really is.
Like the Giants stuff, really for him not to even get a fair shot when you could probably arguably say he should have that job right now. Like I like Dable as head coach. He should probably have that job right now. To look at Denver 2 years ago and say he should also probably have that job right now over Vic Fangio. I would have hired him probably over
Flores would still have a job in Denver.
Yeah, he'd still have a job in Denver.
And probably Watson would be a Bronco right now.
Exactly. For him, not only to get fired because of the dispute between Watson and Tua, which is a whole nother flippant tangent within itself.
Which we've gone over.
which we've already gone over before with my live reaction. For him to not only have to deal with that, have to deal with losing because the owner is bribing him with $100,000 or his job basically on the line. For people to be losing jobs because they won't win, or I'm trying to phrase this the right way.
They want a tank.
Yeah, they want a tank, or they want to stop your potential of winning, is absolutely ridiculous. The NBA solved that the right way just by making the top 3 picks all at 14% chance of you getting it for the lottery. The NFL could solve that with like a 2-game tournament between the worst 4 teams in the league, which I don't think the players would ever play in that. But there's potential for the NFL. They should probably go to a lottery and do the same damn thing. Everyone should be copying what the NBA is doing right now to prevent the temptation of tanking. But if that is true, that is absolutely absurd. Brian Flores should probably be reinstated in some position in Miami if that is found out to be true. Brian Flores, I know he probably won't be hired ever again. If this is true, he deserves and should be guaranteed a spot at really any organization he chooses. Especially the 3 in Denver, Miami, and the Giants. He should be guaranteed a selection of who he wants to go coach for. It doesn't have to be a head coaching position, but just give him a spot, maybe even like GM or something. If that is true. The Stephen Ross also with the quarterback thing, he wanted to bring in Tom Brady or something like that. And Brian Flores just kind of just like waved him off and then brings him on the yacht.
Yeah.
And like, I don't think Tom Brady was there, but there was a different quarterback.
Tom was getting ready to go there.
Yeah, Tom was getting ready to go there. Like, it's absurd. It is absurd. And the NFL looks like I really don't know.
They look like asses. They really do. It's so bad because like I just don't get it. I don't get why we're still dealing with this in today's society. I really don't. Like, I think I agree with Bailey. I think the NFL is now to the point where they're getting behind all these other leagues. Like, they need to copy and paste what the NBA is doing, because the second tanking got involved, like, we all joke about it, like, oh, tanking for Tua.
It's
like,
serious.
Like, that was a joke. Like, this shit is actually happening in the NFL just to get the number 1 pick or just to get your franchise quarterback, which I don't have a problem with you trying to get your franchise quarterback. Just do it the right way, because people are going out there getting injured. They're putting in all this work. They're spending time away from their family for you to pretty much go out there and not get 2 shits if you win. Like,
if there's no validity in winning anymore, there should be no reason for sports. Like, you play to win the game.
It's cliche, but it's true.
Herm Edwards put it the best. You play to win the game. And it's ridiculous that people are really trying to just exploit certain little things to get what they want in the higher ups of the NFL, just to have things go their way and not win. Players play the game to win. Like, it's as simple as that. That's why the tournament where the 2 worst teams play for the number 1 pick, they sure as hell won't play that, because whoever they draft at number 1, that is they're playing for someone to take their job. That is what they're playing for.
Yeah.
Who wants to play for that? No one wants to play for that.
You're not going to go out there if you're Jared Goff next year and try to win the game just so they can replace you with Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not how that works.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
they're going in the wrong direction.
Everyone else is moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
NHL is moving forward. NBA is moving forward. Baseball's at a standstill, but has been moving forward. The NFL is just sitting there, and Roger Goodell is really not doing anything about it.
And yes, they instate the rule, but like the Giants are doing, they never gave him a fair shot. They can say they interviewed him.
And that's the loophole. That's how they get around it.
That's exactly. It's depressing, really, to say the least, that a man of color we even have to have that rule in place for a man of color to even have a chance at getting hired, A, and B, like for a man of color to have that high of validity and those credentials and his resume, for him not even to be able to sniff another team, most likely, win or lose this case for the rest of his career, and remove his job, can't feed his family, do the game of football anymore, is it sucks.
It's just really like depressing. It really is. Like Bailey said, like the fact this even has to be a rule.
The fact that this has to be a conversation.
Yeah, like this conversation shouldn't even be happening, but it is. And like it's a big deal. And I'll say it again, like this is Super Bowl week. Like the talk should be Super Bowl week. And it should be going into free agency. It should be the draft. It should be the combine. We should be talking about the pro days. We should be talking about the Senior Bowl, East-West Shrine Game. But the focus is this just because it is that serious. And it's that, in my eyes, it's that legitimate. Like, it's one of those things where you look at it and go, if a man has everything to lose and comes out and says this, how can you not back that?
Yeah.
It's just, I would take what he says over these rich, greedy fat cats that own NFL teams. I would take
Any
his,
day of the week.
yeah, I'll take it any day of the week. I really just don't get it. It's
Now Hugh Jackson too might be joining him. Like
in those Cleveland years.
if
And
there
like,
is
and
a-
McCourty
yeah.
came out and said when he was playing for the Browns, when they went 0-17, he goes, there's no way we weren't tanking. Like
Yeah.
we were tanking. We were looking to lose because that's just how it was.
Mhm.
And the fact that it is documented to at least 2017 that at least the players felt like that they were tanking, that is not a good look. Because once the NBA sniffed tanking, they nipped it right in the ass. They made the lottery how it is.
Yeah, Mark Cuban got fined $500,000 for even commenting about tanking. Then they instantly changed the lottery to the 14% for all the top 3 draft picks, and they put it on lock instantly.
It was that offseason.
Mhm.
It was done. It
Yeah.
was signed, sealed, delivered.
Yeah.
And the fact that this has been at least, like we're just saying at least,
I think we have
This
to
is-
commend Adam Silver for that too.
this has been at least going on since 17, the tanking thing. And who knows how far back the whole Rudy rule,
Has been-
finagling,
yeah.
that's been
Loophole.
going on. It's just, it's a bad look for our favorite sport. It really just is.
Bad look for the league. It's a bad look, really on just society in general, that this conversation has to happen right now. It's bad look for the owners, bad look for coaches, players, literally just anyone involved, especially in the higher ups of the league, that this conversation has to be even mentioned, touched, and addressed in any form of media in America. It's ridiculous.
Dang.
But yeah,
Kind of a somber note, but
it is.
we wanted to save it for the end because
But
we knew it'd be.
it's that serious. It is
Yeah.
that serious of a topic.
We usually don't get this serious, but this is one of those where
You
it
have
just
to
had
be.
to be said.
But yeah, so we will update you on that scenario. I am cheering for Flores
Go Brian.
110% of the way. Hope he gives them all their worth. But that's going to do it for this episode. Almost near episode 70. I think Super Bowl Sunday will be episode 70. As far as everything Hurdle podcast goes, subscribe, like, share, comment on the video. I really want, who's your favorite head coaching hire? We'll go with that.
Yeah.
The Flores thing kind of set the tone for a little bit for me. Break out of that. Yeah, subscribe, like, share, comment. Who's your favorite head coaching hire? Hit the notification bell. Super accurate. They come out right when we post. So if you like what you're hearing from us, especially on that last topic, which is one that's very serious for a lot of people, please stay tuned in to Everything Hurdle Podcast. To do that, head over to our Instagram at Hurdle Podcast, HRDL Podcast. We post every time we go live as well. So you got 2 sections there. If you want to listen to just the audio, Spotify, type Hurdle Sports in the search bar, me and Logan on it. There's 3 ways you can access Hurdle Podcast by itself.
3 ways to be notified when we drop.
And 3 ways to be notified when we drop. So there's no reason for you not to be listening to Hurdle Podcast. Yeah, I think that's everything. We'll have a college basketball thing come out And then
The cat's on a streak.
Yeah. And NFL honors episode will be dropping most likely Friday. Super Bowl pick Saturday. Then it's the off season, baby. So
yeah, then we get into all of our creative ideas.
Yeah.
We've been brainstorming. We know of late we've been a little inconsistent uploading. It's really just because we're getting back in the groove of college. Our schedules are a lot different than last semester.
new priorities.
We had a lot of gaps in between where we could get episodes out, and now we really just don't have that. And yeah, other priorities and stuff. But we're gonna get you the content, especially in the off season. We got
things
Google
lined up.
Docs of stuff that are football related that we're gonna go over during the off season. Yeah.
So yeah, that's gonna do it. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Sorry on the sour note, but Bailey, Logan, we're out.
Peace, guys.